Hello viewers and welcome to another match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today I present the first single elimination match of the fall 2016 season of Sam Mann's Black Crusade, his online Conquest LCG competitive league. Winner takes all in today's match. Whomever wins today advances to the top 16 and the loser is out. Both of our players are currently deciding whether or not they want to keep their opening hands. To the south, at the bottom of our screen, we've got Grigory Maksim, our most recently released Astra Militarum faction warlord, played by higherentity. And up top, we've got Ku'gath Plaguefather, played by satiatesanguine. So they are still currently deciding whether or not they want to keep their opening hands. Note that we've got a victory condition as early as planet number 3 through red. Material icons. Planet number 1 under contest is going to be Farron, the routing planet. And bear in mind that planet 2 is going to be Taurus, the unit count planet. We won't see healing until planet number 4. And important, considering we've got Ku'gath and the tank favoring Maxim, planet 3 is Yavarn, which could cheat units into play. So higherentity here has decided to take a mulligan. Looks like Grigory is left with a couple copies of Backlash, Leman Russ Battle Tank. Nice to actually see that in someone's deck. A copy of the signature event to ready a tank, have it attack twice. Nice cheap economy card, ammo depot to draw, and a very powerful clear-cut refuge here, which could give this Leman Russ Battle Tank an additional 5 HP, or it could give the Sakhalem Shrine Guard an extra 5 HP. On the other end of the table, I'll go ahead and say yes, play as per usual. Go right ahead. So, there we go. Both of our players have my blessing to begin play. For Satya to the north, looks like she's got a copy of Tzeentch's Firestorm, Promise of Glory, Fallback, Princess Might, copy of the signature Nurglings, and it looks like both players are actually starved for cheap beginning of the game style units. Not that Ku'gath's Nurglings necessarily fit the bill there, but we see a copy of Soul Grinder, so some early command struggle wins could result in sacrificed units. But we've got that clear-cut refuge entering play. Looks like Maxim is taking it as slow as possible. He's still got the ammo depot to stall. Then he's got the Shrine Guard, or maybe he'll just decide to toss out a battle tank. Of course, Satya was fortunate enough to stumble upon a copy of STC Fragment to really crank up that early game economy up to 1 time per round. That'll provide a nice little resource bonus for her. And of course, over the course of the game, this one little card here could equate to a total of 14 resources. Promise of Glory in hand means that Satya's got the equivalent of 8 resources, so we could see the Soul Grinder and the Nurglings. A lot of players like to hold on to the Nurglings until you can force your opponent to commit a large volume of units to one planet, but it looks like Grigory is dropping off that Sakhalem Shrine Guard at planet number 5, green. It's a 2/2, and it's sitting at the resource steel planet. Of course, Ku'gath, who can move damage, would be able to make very short work of a Sakhalem Shrine Guard, but since he would steal initiative, at least it would have the opportunity to hit him and then retreat. So it would, well, I guess it would survive unshielded until it retreated, and then if it has damage on it, since in the HQ it's no longer at a planet, it would of course die. But Promise of Glory puts 2 cultist tokens into play to decrease the cost of demons at planet number 1. Maxim, with initiative, does decide to deploy his Leman Russ Battle Tank, nice 4 command icons at that planet, and of course it's a 4/6 elite. Maxim himself, you can discard supports as if they were 1 value shield cards, and if you're shielding a tank, like the Leman Russ Battle Tank here, then they count as 2. So currently looks like higherentity to the south is out of resources. We haven't seen ammo depot played, so for this battle tank it could shield for 2. Satya's still got a wealth of resources. Are we going to see the Prince's Might? Are we going to maybe see this Soul Grinder? It's not going to be able to just by default result in the battle tank here being sacrificed. So I suppose she's got some interesting decisions ahead of her. If she were to do Soul Grinder at 1 and send Ku'gath to 1, then Maxim would basically be forced to go to 1 as well. Otherwise, his battle tank would be just outright sacrificed. But note that Maxim's currently got unit count 3, thanks to Clear Cut Refuge. The battle tank could, like I said, be sitting at 11 HP, which is just ridiculous. So I suppose, why don't I pause for a moment and let's see what Satya decides to do. Alright, so after quite a bit of a pause, it looks like Ku'gath's Nurglings are being put into play. Those cultist tokens vanish to the side of the screen, and my favorite thing happens where our play area is resized. So, the Nurglings are sitting at planet number 4 after a unit moves to that healing planet. It'll end up taking damage. Maxim himself is no more than a mere 1/7. He could fairly handily dispatch these Nurglings, and then, of course, if he were to survive doing so, which I assume he would, then he could heal away all of that damage. The only kind of crappy thing there is Iridial's only worth 1 card. And just taking a look at our distribution of planets, looks like planet number 2 and 4, planets number 2 and 4, are going to be the only ones with card bonuses, so they're going to be rather desirable. And it looks like both of our players have passed, so Satya is sitting on 6 resources. Do bear in mind, we've got a copy of Tzeentch's Firestorm in hand, and if you Firestorm a unit to death prior to Clear Cut Refuge, increasing its HP, then you are totally out of luck. So both of our players are deciding where exactly they want to send their warlords. Unit count is going to be 3 for Maxim, 2 for Ku'gath, and that kind of tells me that Ku'gath is going to be showing up at Taurus to probably win 3 cards because resources are not an issue. And let's just see what happens here. Maxim could go to planet number 1. That seems a little bit suboptimal on his part. Planet number 2 would also probably not be the best idea, just because, well, you want the card, but you're not going to be able to trigger Taurus. And I suppose Ku'gath could conceivably also go to Yavvarn, but since you're playing against our tank commander here, you'd kind of be risking your opponent putting a pretty sizable unit into play as well as you. So planet number 5, probably not the ideal destination for Ku'gath at this point. So let's see if a higher entity kind of got himself stuck. It looks like that is the case. So Ku'gath goes to planet number 2. Check it out. 3 units versus 2 means Ku'gath is going to get a free activation there. The Ku'gath's Nurglings and Ku'gath showing up at planet 2 means that's going to be a couple of cards for Satya. And I hope Maxim ends up drawing some stuff to spend all of his resources on, because he just accrued 5 relative to Satya's 2 cards and 1 resource. So a second copy of Fallback for our elite playing Chaos Warlord, and no fresh cards for Satya. So planet number 1 is going to be a routed unit. Are we going to see the Nurglings routed, or are we going to see nothing? I guess, yes, you get rid of the Nurglings, so the Nurglings are going to be transferring to the HQ when they move to a planet the following round. Alongside the Warlord during the command phase, they'll damage themselves. Through that forced reaction, they will also damage Ku'gath. And Ku'gath, since he'll be off initiative, could potentially attack for 1. And, well, I guess he'll have a point of damage on him from the Nurglings to transfer off with his reaction. I was just trying to say that normally Ku'gath does all right off of initiative. So, Taurus is going to be won by Satya, and she decides to draw cards: Fetid Haze, Splintered Path Acolyte, and Cetherial the Invocator. So, nice little Deep Strike card here, and just in case we see some cards being put into reserve, our Deep Strike eligible options are the Prince's Might, relevant to 2 or lower cost army units, and demons, and then a Cetherial who returns power events like Tzeentch's Firestorm to hand, so you might repeatedly shield or you might repeatedly nuke, and Satya is certainly going to have the resources for it. and STC fragment is still a thing. So Maksim is going to bounce back to his HQ. Higher Entity decides not to trigger Yvarn, which is wise, considering he doesn't have any army units in hand, and Satya has 9 cards in hers. So it looks like our round is going to come to a close. HQ phase, 2 cards, 4 resources for each player. Initiative token bounces over to the Chaos player. Satya, whose hand is much more interesting, got a second redundant copy of Cetherial the Invocator, as well as another copy of her signature Nurglings. Higher Entity ended up with a copy of Scrap Naba and a second Keep Firing. So this is interesting. Higher Entity has got 9 resources and 6 cards, so those 2 copies of Backlash are a little bit suboptimal, less than ideal. We could see Maksim commit to a planet. The Leman Russ battle tank shows up alongside. Keep Firing readies it to fire on initiative. Clear Cut Refuge will, of course, mean that it has 11 total HP. But it's only going to be able to attack for 4. Ku'gath can transfer damage off of himself. We've got a Soul Grinder in play, and note that an exhausted Leman Russ battle tank is going to contribute 0 of its 4 command icons to winning a command struggle. So it looks like Ku'gath, by dropping off a Soul Grinder at planet number 1, may well end up winning the battle at that planet without any additional investment. We don't see a Corrupted Teleportarium or any means of moving the unit off of that planet, but it's a nice little daunting thing just to make sure that Grigory stays well away from planet number 1 there. If we, for whatever reason, decide to, say, load up planet number 2 with demons, like additional copies of Nurglings, that could be pretty handily won, and Grigory does have, looks like just 1 red material icon in his victory display, so Satya still kind of has to define a victory condition, but if she were to win these first 3 planets in line, that'll be the game going to her. And looks like Higher Entity still has 6 resources, but he's now fresh out of army units after dropping off an ammo depot after putting into play a copy of Scrap Naba. This time, the Scrap Naba is going to be at Karnath, a 1-card bonus planet, so Grigory might actually end up getting some card income unless Ku'gath goes to that planet. The Scrap Naba currently is collecting, well, it's going to be collecting a possible +2 resource bonus, so I think Ku'gath is going to be fairly highly incentivized to show up at planet number 5, but you'll probably also want to drop off at least 1 command icon at that planet just to make sure that your opponent doesn't win the card and 3 resources. We've got a Splintered Path Acolyte chilling at planet number 4, 1 command icon versus 1 command icon if we do not see it sacrificed. And at the moment, it's looking like the only areas of contention here are going to be planet number 1 and 5 in regard to command struggles. And note that planet number 5 is Karnath, the battle ability triggering planet. So, Higher Entity has played a card. We're currently waiting on Satya to see if she's going to be doing anything else. And then I can only imagine that we're going to be seeing our Maksim player pass. And we see a second Soul Grinder being put into play at Karnath, and this about sucks for Higher Entity because Ku'gath is looking like he's going to be winning a command struggle by default. 2 command icons beats 1 the last time that I checked. If you win a command struggle, Soul Grinder means that your opponent sacrifices a non-warlord unit at that planet if able. So the Scrap Naba is going to be going bye-bye unless Grigory Maksim shows up with the Leman Russ battle tank, but the tank shows up, exhausted. We could see Keep Firing used just to ready it so that it could attack on initiative if Maksim is going to be there. And again, Clear Cut Refuge can keep it fighting for a while, but it's not going to be able to one-hit knock out the Soul Grinder. Maksim and the Scrap Naba could together threaten to kill it, but we've got 2 copies of Fallback. We've got a Tzeentch's Firestorm, which could be used as a shield, or it could be used to Well, I would say nuke a unit, but generally that involves having more than 0 resources, so let's see what happens here. Satya has passed, Higher Entity has passed, 2 copies Keep Firing, 2 copies Backlash, and certainly an adequate number of resources with which to play all 4 of those cards. So let's see where Ku'gath is going to go. Planet number 1 is fairly secure thanks to the Soul Grinder, but let's see, I guess unit count right now is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Ku'gath and 4 for Maksim, but it's going to be planet number 3 for both players, and this is very interesting. So Ku'gath's Nurglings is going to be triggering to deal a point of damage to each unit at this planet. This is not a targeted effect, so it's not eligible for backlash, but let's see what all happens here. So each unit is going to be dealt a point of damage. Satya is considering whether or not she wants to shield. Looks like insofar as command struggles are concerned, again, this really stinks for Higher Entity. I was going to say for better or worse, but it's definitely worse for him. It's looking like it's going to be 2 command struggles won by the Chaos player that already has way more cards. And Higher Entity's still got resources, but we haven't even seen him drop to a low enough card count in hand that we could see Ammo Depot being used. So Satya gets 2 cards, 2 resources. One of these cards is going to be able to bully the hell out of Maksim. It's the signature support via Laboratory to shift well, I guess you shift non-vehicles from planet to planet, but tanks are vehicles, go figure, and then a 3rd copy of Ku'gath's Nurglings. So we're going to see a battle at planet number 1. Taurus is going to be captured by Satya, so grats to her on winning her first planet. That's going to be a red and a green icon in her victory display. Her unit count is going to be sufficiently high so as to disallow her from triggering Taurus. And now we're going to be seeing battle break out at planet number 3. This is where things are going to be getting pretty interesting. We've got Clear Cut Refuge, we've got 2 copies Backlash, we've got 2 copies of Keep Firing. So the Leman Russ could ready and attack, and then ready and attack again, and the only thing contesting it is going to be Ku'gath and the Nurglings, but I would say Grigory is looking favored to be able to win the battle at the planet Iridial, because a 4-11 is likely going to be able to stay put long enough to win the battle, and then even if the battle tank has 10 damage on it, Iridial is going to be removing all of that damage. So let's see when and if one or more of those Keep Firings is used, just because Ku'gath, whom is attacking first, is really going to have to be certain to try to, I don't know, just deal damage wherever it happens to be most useful. Clear Cut Refuge, for what it's worth, can target warlords. Ku'gath directs his attack toward the Leman Russ, and Ku'gath is going to be transferring a point of damage onto the battle tank there. So the tank has decided not to shield. It's going to be at 3 HP remaining. Combat turn is going to be done for Satya, and now I can only imagine Grigory is going to attack the Nurglings, or otherwise we might see the battle tank ready, but let's see what's going to be happening here. I think if Higher Entity knows what's good for him, he might want to have Grigory attempt to kill the Nurglings and then not act, and basically if there was any way you could postpone Ku'gath from taking damage prior to his ability to attack, that would be fantastic. Clear Cut Refuge, I believe, targeted the Leman Russ battle tank, and we see a Tzeentch's Firestorm, interestingly enough, discarded to preserve the fragile carapace there of the Ku'gath's Nurglings. So at the end of the combat round, all of our players are going to be, well, both of our players are going to be readying all of their units, and now it's going to be our Chaos player player's decision whether or not to retreat first. Satia's only got 2 resources, so fallback is an option. Not that it's relevant to this planet, but Fetid Haze is not going to be an option. So poor Ku'gath, if he gets loaded up with damage, he's basically just going to have to deal with it. So Ku'gath decides to stay with both. Is the Leman Russ battle tank going to be staying put? It's got 8 HP remaining, and we've got the Nurglings and Ku'gath left at that planet. So I suppose the best case scenario might be the Nurglings attacking, and then, you know, I guess Maksim could try to kill the Nurglings, but Satya could shield them to keep them alive. The battle tank, it seems a bit of a damn waste to kill the Nurglings, but I guess what we could do is the Nurglings attack, the battle tank is at 5 damage, the battle tank attacks, kills the Nurglings, Ku'gath swings for 1, maybe you wait until the end of the round and then you try to trap Ku'gath. Maybe you set Ku'gath up to be in a position where you can attack and then do keep firing and attack and keep firing and attack again, and once the Warlord is bloodied, things are going to be looking much, much better for higher entity, despite the giant economy discrepancy. So, looks like both players stay with both. Ku'gath's Nurglings wind up and swing at the Leman Russ battle tank. Are they going to be dealing 2 points of damage? Looks like the answer is yes. That battle tank has now got, 6 HP remaining. The battle tank exhausts and then readies. Looks like we can't quite decide what we want to target. The battle tank is deciding to attack Ku'gath. So interesting here that we're going for this choice, but maybe we're going to try to trap Ku'gath now. So Satya has only got the Prince's Might as a 2-value shield card. So let's say Ku'gath takes the hit for 4. Then Ku'gath could attack in response, move a point of damage off of himself. Okay, so this makes it easier for me. Ku'gath is at 2 points of damage. Ku'gath is going to be attacking, and then he'll be at 1 damage. We could see the Leman Russ battle tank do keep firing to fire again twice, and we've only got 2 1-value shield cards, so 4 minus 1 is 3, times 2 is 6, total of 7. That means Ku'gath could be bloodied if we see the double keep firing, and then things are going to be looking proper shitty there for poor Ku'gath. What are the odds of, the double keep firing when your opponent's only seen 9 cards in their deck? Drawing the double signature event, statistically unlikely. So I guess let's see what happens here. Ku'gath is deciding to shift targets. I guess Ku'gath dealt a point of damage to the Leman Russ battle tank through attacking, and then via the reaction placed a point of damage onto Grigory. I guess we just wanted to threaten that if the Leman Russ battle tank isn't healed by the end of the phase, it will die, because 6 damage equals 6 hit points. We see keep firing ready the Leman Russ battle tank, and I believe this is going to be the moment of truth. This is likely going to be where Ku'gath is bloodied, an outbound attack valued at 4, directed toward our Plaguefather. We don't have enough for Fetid Haze, which is just rotten luck for Satya. Even if she had something like, she's allied with orcs, but even if she had an Archon's Terror, we've got a double backlash in hand here. So it looks like Ku'gath is going to be bloodied in mere moments, but Satya must be kind of asking herself, is it worth shielding or not? Is there anything you can do to avoid being bloodied? Is your opponent bluffing? Does your opponent have the double keep firing? I guess, why don't I pause and let's see what happens now. Alright, so Ku'gath ends up taking the full 4 points of damage. There's no shielding to be done. I guess that Ku'gath's thought process here is that if Like, if there's the double keep firing, Ku'gath is going to be bloodied regardless. And there is the second copy of Keep Firing after Ammo Depot triggers, and Grigory ends up getting a copy of Leman Russ Conqueror. So, looks like Ku'gath is going to be sent packing, bloodied. He's now no more than a mere 1/5, and Grigory is going to potentially deal the killing blow, the exsanguinating blow to these poor Nurglings here. So, will they take after their Plaguefather and be sent packing back to the warp? The answer is yes, they are slain. And that means that grats to Grigory. I imagine we're going to be seeing that Leman Russ battle tank being healed to full. So, if Higher Entity manages to win our next rounds, planet number 1, Yavarn, and the following rounds, planet number 1, Iridial, that's going to be 3 red icons, and that is going to be the game won by Grigory. So, very nicely played, or very lucky, however you want to look at it. Grigory ended up managing to bloody Ku'gath. So, that looks like... yeah, I guess that is definitely what he needed, and he got it. So the Leman Russ battle tank is now healed to full. Grigory bounces back to the HQ, and now we're going to be seeing a new HQ phase, and we'll be revealing our final planet in just a moment. Now, Ku'gath is going to have to be very careful to dodge the opponent here. We ended up getting 2 cards, 4 resources for each player. Satya got a copy of Warp Rift so that you can switch a target planet with an adjacent planet, but the units stay put. The only thing that changes is the location of those 2 planets, like Yavarn becomes Iridial and vice versa. And Higher Entity gets a copy of Ammo Depot, probably definitely not what he was hoping to see, and a copy of Iron Guard Recruits. So Ku'gath is going to have to make sure not to get assassinated by Grigory, but Grigory's ability to do that is going to be severely limited now that there are no more surprise, keep firing volleys or anything like that. Looks like we've got Satya indicating that she forgot to use her Soul Grinder to destroy that Scrap Naba, but reactions are optional, they're not forced, so in a tournament context, I would say that you missed your opportunity to trigger that reaction, and you're out of luck. But who knows, perhaps Grigory is going to be a more merciful opponent than I would be in a high-stakes tournament style context here. But I'm not going to, interfere. So Satya is asking if a Higher Entity is willing to resolve it. He indicates yes, so kudos to you, Grigory player, for being a proper sir. I'd have probably been the asshole to say, no, sorry, you missed your chance. But anyways, I guess today we learned Higher Entity is a better man than I. So let's see. Grigory is going to be thinking about unit placement for his Iron Guard recruits, and then after that, he does still have enough to put into play his Leman Russ Conqueror, which is a 3/7. After it resolves an attack, it gains an additional attack value bonus, and thanks to Clear Cut Refuge, it could be a 3/13 that keeps getting +3 attack every time it resolves an attack. And if we end up seeing Maksim's signature attachment, the Searchlight, he might be able to move that unit from planet to planet, and if he gets even a single attack off on poor Ku'gath, 5 HP is not much, standing between you and the loss of a game. So let's see. Higher Entity says hold on, and he is still thinking about where exactly to place his unit. So for the umpteenth time this game, why don't I pause yet again, and let's wait for our players to make a decision. Okay, looks like planet number 2 it is going to be, so the Iron Guard recruits are backing up the Leman Russ battle tank, and now that's going to be an incredible 6 command icons all concentrated on one planet. That is the healing planet, but I guess the thought process here is that Grigory doesn't want to send himself to planet number 2, and he's concerned that Ku'gath might show up at that planet, win a command struggle by default, and then the Soul Grinder, which follows Ku'gath, results in a unit being sacrificed, and the only eligible target would be this 5-cost elite. So I can only imagine that's the only thought process there. So is Grigory going to be showing up at planet number 1 by himself to try to win the triple icon planet? And if, well, I guess we could see Leman Russ Conqueror being put at planet number 1, and then we could see Grigory send himself to planet number 1, and then we could see Grigory the following round go to Iridial, and with all those tanks, maybe that's going to be enough. But things are going to get a little bit more complicated. Satiatesanguine ends up putting Cethariel the Invocator just deployed, so very interesting. Deploying the unit for a reduction of 2, thanks to the STC fragment. And the way that this works is Cethariel for 3 is going to be sitting here, and now after a combat round at the planet begins, you can return a power event from your discard pile to your hand, and you might as well go ahead and pick, let's take a look at the discard pile here. Yes, this is going to be either just Tzeentch's Firestorm is going to be the only option, but that's a 2 shield value card you can use each and every combat round. But if Grigory ends up tossing out a Leman Russ Conqueror at planet number 1, then the Conqueror first attacks for 3, then it attacks for 6, and then 9, and even if your opponent's going to be able to use a 2-value shield card each and every time, it's going to be insufficient to resist such firepower. I believe there's a famous quote that says something like, our shields can't withstand firepower of that magnitude, something like that. So also, another complicating factor is if we see a big 6-cost elite at this planet, if Ku'gath shows up, well, actually, that is not true. I was going to say if we've got just the 1 unit, if both players send their warlords, that's going to be a command struggle won by our chaos player, but of course that is madness. That is not the case. That would be, you basically force Maksim to show up, lest the Soul Grinder and Ku'gath result in Leman Russ Conqueror being sacrificed. So, Grigory here has got to be deciding where, if anywhere, does he want to play his Conqueror. The instant that he does play it, he'll be able to use Ammo Depot to draw an additional card, and the Conqueror is going to be able to reach 13 HP thanks to the Clear Cut Refuge, or we could make the Leman Russ Battle Tank a 4/12. So, we do see the Conqueror. Is it going to be played at planet number 1? This could be a good opportunity for Grigory to win the game in just 2 rounds. No, it looks like it's instead going to be at planet number 3. Okay, no, it's actually not. Maybe it's actually going to be put out at planet number 1. So as I keep speculating, Satia's still got 3 resources. She might want to be holding on to some cash to fund Fetid Haze, just in case Ku'gath is looking like he's going to be annihilated. And also remember that as an HQ action, Warp Rift could swap 2 of these planets. So we could see Satya try to delay a victory condition here for Grigory, but Higher Entity is pondering where he wants to send his unit. So time number 5, why don't I pause the video and let's see what he decides. Okay, so I need not have paused at all. Planet number 3 is going to be the ultimate destination here for the Leman Russ Conqueror. That's going to be 4 command icons versus the 1, and this essentially gives Ku'gath permission to sacrifice the Splintered Path Acolyte to put a demon into play for a reduction of 2. So she's still got the equivalent of something like 5 resources. So what is she going to be doing? She's got planet number 1 essentially locked down because Cethariel is going to be able to fend off Maksim even if Maxim gives himself a +6 HP bonus, a 113 is not going to be able to overcome this 4/4 that recurs a shield card. And do note that we're going to be seeing a battle regardless of this first planet, so that is going to be a power event returned from the discard pile to the hand. And for our Chaos player, what, if anything else, is she going to do? Let's go ahead and pause for time number 6. Okay, Vile Laboratory enters play, and this is going to be a nice opportunity for Ku'gath to force a non-vehicle unit from a target planet to an adjacent planet. So I'll be very curious to see what exactly that can do. We could shift the location of the Sacalum Shrine Guard or the Iron Guard recruits to an adjacent planet. Or that could have just been a bit of a deliberate stall, so let's see what happens. Higher Entity is passed. We're now seeing Vile Laboratory. That's going to be planet number 3 is selected, so the Sacalum Shrine Guard is going to have to... let's see here. The opponent chooses and moves a non-vehicle they control from a target planet to an adjacent planet. So the only eligible option there is going to be the Shrine Guard. I would advise moving it to planet number 2, because if it were to go to planet number 4, that would just be death by Soul Grinder. Yes, so the Shrine Guard shifts from number 3 to number 2, and I guess we'll just have to see what that affects. Again, if Ku'gath arrives at 3 and Maxim does not show up at 3, then the Soul Grinder is going to result in the Leman Russ being sacrificed. And it's a damn pity that we don't have a promotion or two on this Splintered Path Acolyte, just because Satya is not going to be able to put so many command icons on one army unit that she can force the sacrifice of this formidable conqueror here. But looks like Higher Entity is about to pass, and then we'll have to see if Satya... It looks like she's also going to be forced to pass, and then we'll be on to the command phase. So I've lost track of pauses, but let's take a break yet again and see what our players decide to do. Higher Entity has passed, and now let's see Satya pass, and then we're going to be off to the command phase, and we'll see what our players do. So Higher Entity is passed, waiting on the pass from Satya. Okay, so that is a Ku'gath's Nurgling. Plays it for, 0, so we've discarded the Splintered Path Acolyte. Interesting, so that's going to be chillin' over at Barlas, our 2-card bonus planet, the last planet to join the Traxxas sector this game. I suppose I was not expecting the Splintered Path Acolyte to be sacrificed, but that's totally fine. Higher Entity is passed, and now let's see that pass from Satya, because unless I'm gravely mistaken now, there is absolutely nothing that she's going to be able to do, so we're off to the command phase. I think the way things are going to resolve is Ku'gath is not going to be showing up at planet number 1. Grigory might be going to planet number 5. Wherever Ku'gath goes, he'll be dropping off a copy of Soul Grinder. If Ku'gath wins planet number 1, that's going to be a victory. Well, it's going to be a second red and a second green in her victory display, so that means she could win through planets 3, 4, or 5 here. So Satya has passed. I think it would probably be a poor life choice for Ku'gath to show up at planet number 2. Planet number 3, Ku'gath might be able to snipe the Leman Russ Conqueror. If we see Grigory arrive at planet number 3, which is a reasonably likely destination for him, that prevents Ku'gath from winning the command struggle, so it denies those 2 resources. It also denies the Soul Grinder attack, and then the Conqueror can deal a hefty bit of damage to the Soul Grinder or otherwise put a bunch of pressure on Ku'gath, and Ku'gath unfortunately cannot withstand firepower of that magnitude. Planet number 4 and 5, well, 4 seems like it would be a terrible choice for Grigory, because he doesn't have anything too terribly useful in his hand. In planet number 5, Grigory would be able to kill off these Nurglings. He'd take some damage, but he could definitely use some cards. So, to no one's surprise, it's going to be planet number 3 for Grigory, planet number 4 for Ku'gath, and I guess planet number 4 is going to be Ku'gath's, possible victory condition planet. So long as Ku'gath can prevent higherentity from winning, which it's looking like it's going to be, let's see, higherentity's got 1 red icon, so red icon, couple of green icons. If Ku'gath just decides to fortify the hell out of planet number 4 here, that's going to be 4 command icons with these soul grinders. That's going to be 2 units sacrificed. So I suppose we could just see Ku'gath sitting pretty and just ending up winning the game here. I guess earlier I maybe made a comment mistakenly about Ku'gath being aligned with orcs. I must have been misspeaking. It's higherentity that is allied with orcs, and Ku'gath, as is abundantly clear right now, is allied with Dark Eldar. So, battle breaks out. Combat round begins at planet number 1. Cethariel the Invocator returns Tzeentch's Firestorm to hand. That is going to be Yavharn 1. In regard to command struggles, higherentity got a card and 2 resources. Satya instead got 3 resources, 11 cards. Satya is going to be winning the battle at this planet. Are we going to see Yavharn triggered? We could see Vicious Bloodletter put into play for free for Ku'gath to deposit at Karnath. Or maybe we don't see Yavharn triggered just because, yep, Satya says no trigger. She probably wants to make sure under any and all circumstances that she does not afford her opponent any opportunity whatsoever to get anything more powerful into play. Because whether or not she gets crap like, more demons on this planet, like additional copies of Ku'gath's Nurglings, or the Vicious Bloodletter, whatever, if you load up a planet with Soul Grinders, if your opponent shows up with these big, expensive units, if they show up exhausted, if you lose command struggles, they're going to be sacrificed, and even if they're not sacrificed, like if you get rid of fodder like the Shrine Guard, the Iron Guard recruits, that's going to result in the Soul Grinders being able to pick apart these tanks, and Clear Cut Refuge is unique, and it's only so effective. And if you run out of resources for, Archon's Terror, if you run out of resources to backlash Archon's Terror, then you're out of luck. But Grigory won a battle at Ossus 4. Ku'gath won a battle at planet number 4 and triggered Ossus 4, so the players temporarily exchanged resources. Nice little cultural exchange there. We've gone through another HQ phase by now. 2 cards, 4 resources for each player. Initiative token passes over to Ku'gath Plaguefather. 2 ammo depots in our AM player's hand. Gotta say, top 15 cards of your deck, you probably don't want to see all 3 copies of your ammo depot, but those are the breaks. We've also got a troop transport. 3 out of our 4 remaining planets are green. Note that the very relevant to ending the game planet is not green. And in regard to sacrifice, you've got to pick non-warlords, which token units are non-warlords. So maybe there's some fodder for the discard there. But we've got another copy of Sakalim Shrine Guard, which, again, at a non-green planet, it's not too terribly powerful. Looks like Satya has momentarily disconnected. Hopefully she's going to reconnect so we can finish this marathon of a match. And then as soon as she pops back in the game, I'll be able to take a look at her hand. But let's pause. And without even pausing the video, looks like we're already back. She is hopefully back. In regard to what cards she has drawn, we've got a copy of Black Legion Helldrake, and we've got a second copy of Fetid Haze. I'll indicate that I am here as well. We do not have Ominous Wind. Ominous Wind and Fetid Haze look so similar in the color of their card art, although I think only one depicts Rotten Eldar Aspect Warrior corpses, or not Aspect Warrior, but Guardian Corpses, I think. So, Higher Entity indicates that it should be Satia's turn to deploy. In regard to her options, 7 resources, 13 cards. She's got an unplayable copy of Cetherial. She's got her Nurglings. What she goes for is going to be a copy of Corrupted Teleportarium, so you can move an elite from a blue planet to another planet, which does nothing apart from a deploy stall, since it only costs 1. We've got that Helldrake, which is unplayable because of its cost. We've got the Nurglings. We've also got a copy of Vicious Bloodletter, which unfortunately does not have any command icons. But we could theoretically see the Bloodletter played at planet number 1. Ku'gath shows up. We see area effect 3, potentially kill the Shrine Guard, kill the Iron Guard recruits, damage the Leman Russ battle tank. Cetherial can stay and fight. He could maybe contribute Tzeentch's Firestorm. There's a lot of different things that could happen, and if Satya has enough resources after we resolve command struggles, we could even see Fetid Haze pull damage off of Ku'gath and redistribute it to a Leman Russ battle tank, even if it happens to be augmented by Clear Cut Refuge. Let's see. Corrupted Teleportarium is an action, so we could see one of these Soul Grinders moved from planet 3 to planet number 1. So there's certainly a lot of different options for things that could occur here. Higher Entity puts into play one of his copies of Ammo Depot. We could see Troop Transport and another Ammo Depot and a Sakalem Shrine Guard. And we could also see those copies of Ammo Depot start to fire off, so there's going to be many more deploy stalls yet to come for our AM player, and Satya is going to run out of deploy actions much faster than will Grigory. But let's see what Satya decides to do, and pause. Time number 7 or 8. Okay, Vicious Bloodletter is going to be placed at planet number 3, so we're playing it conservatively, and there's no reason to take any unnecessary risks here. So, I guess I misspoke earlier. The Black Legion Helldrake was not unplayable because of the cost, because, as I'm reminded right now, STC Fragment decreases the cost of the Vicious Bloodletter to 3, and now it's an area effect 3 unit chillin' at planet number 3 with those 2 Soul Grinders. Now, really, the only bummer about this combo is, of course, it's a lot of powerful bodies at one planet, which, you know, who doesn't like that? But the Soul Grinders, if a command struggle is won at their planet, you may as well throw away your garbage that was going to be mowed down by area effect 3 anyways. So that's kind of redundant, but, you know, it's still, it attacks for 4. We've got a 3rd Ammo Depot being put into play, and then up next, why not do your Shrine Guard, your Troop Transport? Let's see how Satya responds. She's currently down to 3 resources. The Corrupted Teleportarium could be used at any moment, but let's see what all she decides. She decides that she is done, and now it's time for our AM player to run amok. Troop Transport hits the table. That, at a green planet, is going to be 2 1/2 Soldier Trait Guardsman tokens. And let's see, we ended up drawing a copy of Leman Russ Battle Tank. Because of an Ammo Depot, we play Sakalem Shrine Guard to planet number 2. And another Ammo Depot fires to put a Scrap Nabba into play, and now we are going to be seeing the Scrap Nabba at planet number 1, where it's going to win a couple of resources for our AM player. Ammo Depot again results in a Troop Transport, and now we're finally seeing our poor Grigory Maksim actually derive some benefit from all of these Ammo Depots. So remember, this Troop Transport is limited. It cannot be played, but it can be used as a 1-value shield card, or if you're instead shielding a tank, it's a 2 shield icon card. And of course, we've got both copies of Backlash. So Higher Entity indicates that he is done. On to the command phase. Both of our players are going to be deciding where exactly they want to send their warlords. I don't think that Ku'gath is going to be showing up to 1 or 2. Maybe planet number 3 or 4. I would presume planet number 3, just to make sure that Cetherial shows up at that planet. Satya is going to have another opportunity to return a power trait event, a power trait chaos event to hand. But there is not one in the discard pile, and we, of course, didn't play a Tzeentch's Firestorm to see that happen. You could maybe argue it could have been worth it to kill the Scrap Nabba, perhaps not. But let's see what happens. Both? No, Satya indicates that she is done. Higher Entity is still thinking. Planet number 1 is healing. Not a lot of point for Grigory to show up there. Planet number 2 is Ossus 4 to steal a resource. That would be okay. Planet number 3 would probably be a nightmare, and planet number 4, if Grigory had the audacity to arrive at a planet like that, we could see one of these elites relocated to his planet just to block him. Looks like it's going to be planet 3 for Ku'gath to drop off Cetherial, create a giant death ball here for all these poor, will be showing up exhausted AM units. And Grigory instead goes to planet number 2. Grigory is going to be able to steal 1 resource. So here's what we see. Higher Entity gets a card, 4 resources. The 1 card is Preemptive Barrage, which doesn't really work if you've got exhausted units showing up at this critical planet. And Satya instead gets 3 cards and 1 resource. So Gut and Pillage is going to be able to proc off of Karnath for 3 additional resources. We've got another copy of Tzeentch's Firestorm and another kind of redundant copy of Corrupted Teleportarium. Iridial is going to be captured by the AM player. Grigory is going to be healed for 2 points. And we're going to be seeing battle at 2. That's going to be a resource stolen from Satya. She'll bounce to 3. Higher Entity is going to bounce up to 6. Still going to be able to do another Lehman Russ. Troop transport can be a thing, and it looks like we're going to be seeing some giant battle break out at Karnath. But unless Grigory gets really lucky and draws a copy or 2 of Suppressive Fire, it's looking like this Vicious Bloodletter is going to make really short work of a couple of copies of Sakalem Shrine Guard at a non-green planet. It's going to be able to obliterate any number of lingering Guardsman tokens. The Scrap Nabba is going to be just wrecked. And a Battle Tank and a Conqueror and Maksim, what good can they do against Cetherial and 2 Soul Grinders, each attacking for 4 in a post-Vicious Bloodletter Volley environment? So, let's see what is going to be occurring. We've lost a resource, Satya's lost a resource, Higher Entity has gained a resource, Karnath is going to be 1, so Gut and Pillage is going to be 3 resources for Satya, and I sure hope that's how that name is pronounced. I've certainly said it enough. So is Karnath going to be a random card discarded or a resource stolen? I guess you may as well do the random card discard, because if you were to steal a resource, Higher Entity is still going to have enough to do something like another Lehman Russ Conqueror. That'll be, 9 resources. But Satya's got to be wondering if, is that additional 1 resource going to be critically important to her? So let's see what happens here. Warp Rift, it's looking like that's only going to be used as a shield, because if we were to swap these 2 planets, that would give Grigory a possible victory condition. So Grigory is sitting on 2 red icons. We see Ossus 4 triggered, so Ku'gath, gets +1 resource. Higher Entity gets -1 resource. Both of our players indicate that they are done. We enter another HQ phase. This is probably the second to last round, but let's see what happens. 4 resources, 2 cards for each of our players. Their available number of deploys is, well, it's not exactly decreasing, but the number of planets is decreasing. Maksim gets a copy of the Signature Squadron after putting into play a copy of Troop Transport. Preemptive Barrage is still a thing. We've got a Rogue Trader that could do a little bit of work at planet number 1. And Grigory is going to be showing up with a whole hell of a lot of units. So it's kind of tricky. If Grigory decides to go to planet number 1, then that's fine, but then that's going to be all the more units arriving the following round, exhausted at 2. And if Grigory decides to go to 2 this round, Ku'gath is still going to have, like, critical mass to annihilate whatever is sent at that planet. Because, well, especially considering, well, I don't know. I guess I don't really force... I could imagine Ku'gath going to planet number 3 to ensure that Ku'gath is going to be able to win a card at that planet, or the 2 cards at that planet, and to shut off this rogue trader. If Grigory goes to planet number 3, then he's going to drop all of this stuff off outside of his opponent's earliest possible victory condition. We see another corrupted teleportarium as a stall, which seems a little bit silly. And fortunately, I guess, for Higher Entity, he is going to have enough resources to put all of this stuff into play. But if we see, like, the Leman Russ battle tank and Maxim squadron deployed to planet number 2, that's going to equal the number of resources. And if Ku'gath were to show up at that planet, that would be a very dead, couple of units there sacrificed via the Soul Grinder. But Vile Laboratory triggers, chooses planet number 3, the Rogue Trader moves to planet number 2, and here's where things get pretty interesting. So we've got the 2 troop transports in play, but they're only going to be able to put into play 1 Guardsman token at a non-green planet. Granted, they could do that after the Area Effect 3 volley, but they're also great fodder for Soul Grinder discards, so I would imagine at some point we'll see these sacrificed this turn just to generate 4 tokens here, then they'll be showing up at this planet exhausted. But we've seen Vile Laboratory go off. Are we going to see Leman Russ battle tank being put into play? Are we going to be seeing the signature Maxim squadron being put into play? If you were to discard a support to shield against that, it basically gets the equivalent of a 3 shield icon card, but it only attacks for 2, and it's only got 3 HP, and Vicious Bloodletter attacks for 3. So even though Ku'gath is bloodied, Ku'gath could just decide to dodge the final planet's worth of combat and show up at Barlas. So things are still looking pretty bleak for our AM player. Black Legion Helldrake could be purchased for the modified cost of 6, courtesy of STC Fragment. That's going to be able to quite handily destroy whatever it is that the Area Effect 3 volley does not. And if at some point Grigory runs out of resources, then Archon's Terror would be able to remove one of these elites. Higher Entity decides to put out Maxim Squadron at planet number 2, and this is going to be pretty interesting and potentially heartbreaking. And here's why. We've currently got 2 command icons. Let's say Higher Entity also invests in Leman Russ Battle Tank. I'd have maybe, well, it doesn't really matter too much with the deploy stall. But here's where shit might go sideways for poor Grigory. So if we were to see the battle tank at this planet, that would have been a total of 6 command icons. Black Legion Helldrake entering play at planet number 2 is going to result in 5, 6, 7, 8 command icons at that planet. 8 is higher than 6. Even if both warlords show up at that planet, that means Soul Grinder is going to be able to trigger twice. That's going to be a couple of pieces of garbage, like maybe the Scalum Shrine Guard and the Rogue Trader both killed. And then we've got no more keep firings at the end of the first combat round. Ku'gath might be able to retreat, because Satya is going to have a sufficient number of resources to use Fetid Haze to heal Ku'gath and make sure he does not get assassinated. And provided he does survive 1 round of combat, if Ku'gath is not dead, then so far as I'm concerned, all the remaining AM units at this planet, their lives are forfeit. And God, I don't know. Things are not looking great. Looks like this Maxim squadron may well end up serving as a bit of a sacrificial lamb, maybe to sate the unquenchable hunger of chaos, I guess. Are we going to be seeing, no, the battle tank does not go to planet number 2, so it's going to be chilling at planet number 1. And I cannot help but ask myself, why play this to planet number 1? Because you're going to be able to win the battle at planet number 1, no problem. Then the following round, this 5-cost elite is going to be showing up at this planet exhausted, as opposed to you're deploying it ready so that it can attack. And as I answer my own question, obviously, what our AM player must have been wanting to do is to rid his hand of another card to hit 3 so that we can start seeing these ammo depots fire off. But they're, like, let's say you trigger the ammo depot, you draw an event, you draw an army unit that costs more than 0. Something tells me we're not going to be seeing Penal Legionnaire or Sniveling Grot in Grigory's deck. Satya passes, 4 resources left, plenty with which to keep Ku'gath alive. Ammo depot adds the Emperor's Warrant to hand, and this gets interesting because this is a hell of a card, and Satya does have a copy of Backlash. So if we see the Emperor's Warrant target an enemy unit at a planet without an enemy warlord, Backlash could say no means no, and conveniently counter that effect. So both of our players are deciding where they want to send their warlords. I imagine Grigory is going to pick planet number 1. Ku'gath is Ku'gath is going to be conservative and pick planet number 2. Maxim also chooses planet number 2, and this is going to be really interesting. So, command struggles, it's going to be 2 planets won by Chaos and 1 planet won by the Astra Militarum. We are going to be seeing some Soul Grinders proc, and that is going to be some sacrificed units. So the game intensifies. Maybe I'm artificially inflating how excited I am right now, but this game's been going for a little while, so let's see how it ends up going. Satya gets 3 cards, 1 resource. She gets a copy of Ominous Wind, which is an action, and Black Legion Helldrake is in play, so for the cost of 2, she would be able to draw 8 cards and then discard 4 garbage cards, like this unnecessary copy of Cythereal the Invocator, or maybe these fallbacks. And we've also got another copy of Backlash. For Grigory, we've got 2 resources. He has enough for the Emperor's Warrant, but the enemy warlord is present, and wouldn't you know it, we are now seeing some units sacrificed. Grigory plus Maxim Squadron equals 3 damage, which is going to be insufficient to destroy Ku'gath Plaguefather, even outside of the Chaos player's option to shield. So that's going to be a Scrap Naba sacrificed. Well, wait, what is the phrasing here? Sacrificed. Rogue Trader is sacrificed. Scrap Naba is sacrificed. And isn't it always the working class that takes the brunt of, the losses? So, the 1% continues to thrive, and the little people end up being quashed. But we're going to be seeing battle break out at planet number 1. This is going to be an additional resource for Grigory, and it's going to be, I guess it's going to be -1 resource for Satya. So is there anything that Satya can do to block this effect? The answer is no. What's interesting here is 3 resources is going to give Grigory enough to do the Emperor's Warrant if Ku'gath vacates the planet, and a copy of Preemptive Barrage, or Backlash, or any combination thereof. But Preemptive Barrage is only going to be able to allow for an outgoing 3, and Tzeentch's Firestorm can be discarded as a shield. Cythereal's at the planet. That means each and every combat round you can recur that 2 shield value card. The Black Legion Helldrake is going to be able to take a huge chunk out of the Leman Russ battle tank, even abetted by the Clear Cut Refuge, which could, thanks to the Leman Russ Conqueror, bounce it up to a total of 12 HP, and then a couple of Soul Grinders would be able to ruin it. The Vicious Bloodletter will kill this garbage remaining at the planet. Grigory is going to flail ineffectually, and Maxim's Squadron itself is about to be just rent asunder. So, how is Liberty going to be destroyed as the forces of Chaos manage to pour out of the warp? Or actually, I suppose it would be more apt to describe it as the forces of Chaos are kind of minding their own business here in the Traxxas sector, just, plundering, infiltrating, capturing planets, and the encroaching, invading AM forces are going to be soundly repelled, I believe. So higher entity indicates that he has passed. I don't know if the less communicative Satya, yes, indicates that she has no action whatsoever. So that's going to be the battle ability triggered. That is going to be the Planet 1. Congratulations to Higher Entity for winning another planet into the, I guess, welcoming arms of the Imperium, whether they want it or not. I'm not sure that that creature inhabiting Ossus 4 there wants to be enlisted. We'll have to knock on its door and ask if we can have a few words about the God Emperor of Mankind. But there's going to be that resource transfer, that exchange occurring. Hopefully they don't incur any kind of PayPal fees or anything along those lines. And now, slowly but surely, we're about to see a battle erupt at planet number 2. Grigory has initiative. Are we going to be seeing preemptive barrage allow the squadron and Maksim to attack for 3. They're not going to be able to kill the Vicious Bloodletter. They're not going to be able to kill Ku'gath or Sathariel or indeed any target at this planet. What I predict is going to be happening is a whole lot of nothing on Grigory's side, no offense. But we're going to be seeing, let's see, what do we have in the form of shields? We could see Area Effect 3, threaten to kill the squadron. We've got an adequate number of shield cards here. We could keep the recruits and the squadron alive, but the Shrine Guard are going to be killed no matter what. Maksim's going to be wounded. The Leman Russ Battle Tank is going to be wounded. The Black Legion Helldrake can't quite finish the fight, but some of these units can, and they can pick off whatever remains, and Maksim is no more than a mere 1/7. So, guess we'll have to see what happens. We could see these troop transports fire off, I guess, 1, 3, 4, 5 damage in total after the Vicious Bloodletter attacks, or we could see the Vicious... Okay, nope, we're seeing the troop transports fire off now, prior to the Vicious Bloodletter, and I can only imagine that must mean we're going to be seeing a preemptive barrage. So something would tell me, if I was Satya's opponent, that 16 cards in hand, there's probably a good chance she's got at least a few shields. So at the present moment, it's going to be up to 4 damage that Maksim is going to be able to deal. That's not enough to threaten to destroy Ku'gath. It's enough to threaten to kill the Bloodletter or Sathariel. But, of course, shields are indeed a thing. So, are we going to be seeing preemptive barrage, or are we not? Archon's Terror at any moment could be used once Higher Eternity drops safely down to 0 resources. Satya indicates that she has no action. Are we going to see that second troop transport? If we do, that would be a total of 5. Let's say well, it would be a total of 5 if we see the second troop transport pop off, because I guess in like a perfect... If Higher Eternity were so lucky that his opponent did not have any shield cards whatsoever, it could be preemptive barrage 1, 3, 4 to Ku'gath, and then on initiative swing. Ku'gath takes 5, GG, that's the game right there. But, spoiler alert, that is not how things are going to unwind. So Satya has passed. Grigory Maksim is trying to decide what exactly does he want to do. The second troop transport is going to unleash its Guardsman token Fury upon the face of Karnath. And that's going to be yet another target here for the Vicious Bloodletter to dispatch. There's no Chaos Faction Power event for Sathariel to recur. There we see preemptive barrage on these 3 units. They're going to be able to attack for 4. But what are they going to be attacking? It really doesn't matter too terribly much. But our players don't know that. They do not have the godlike knowledge that being, I guess, player 3 affords me. So are we going to see an action from the Chaos player? We could see Tzeentch's Firestorm used to kill one of these guardsmen, but I think if it were me, I'd instead try to save it to use Fetid Haze, something along those lines, or Archon's Terror, or Ominous Wind. There's certainly plenty of different options here. So, why don't I pause? No, thank you. I need not pause the video. Satya has passed. And now Ammo Depot exhausts. That's going to be another 2-shield copy of the Emperor's Warrant added to hand. We're going to have to see Satya pass again. And as soon as she does that, we can start seeing combat turns, I believe. So, Satya is going to be thinking. She has passed. Thank you. And what is next? Guardsman token is going to exhaust, delivering an attack to Ku'gath. Ku'gath is going to be assigned 1 point of damage. Is it going to be shielded? Are we going to see shields, or are we instead going to be seeing Fetid Haze? I suppose this is going to be the make or break battle of the game. Fetid Haze is discarded as a shield, and I've got to say, I did not see that happening. I'd have been much more inclined to get rid of... I guess there are 2 Fetid Hazes, but I'd have probably gotten rid of 1 copy of Fetid Haze, honestly. Fallback, also a really strong contender. So, Guardsman token number 2 is also attacking Ku'gath Plaguefather. Are we going to be seeing a copy of Fallback discarded? I would certainly... Okay, nope. It's going to be a Warp Rift, which, note, is a Chaos Faction power trait card. So at the beginning of the following combat rounds, Ethereal is going to be able to bounce that back into play. Tzeentch's Firestorm, another Chaos Faction power trait event, is going to be discarded now. Ku'gath's got the luxury of options. Ku'gath Plaguefather is yet to take any damage. Preemptive Barrage is now essentially useless. Grigory exhausts, uses his 1 combat turn to retreat, and this is where things go all the way bad for our poor AM player. Would you look at all these vulnerable units? Clear Cut Refuge is going to be giving the Lehman Russ battle tank a whopping bonus 6 HP. It is now a 12 HP unit, which is crazy, but is it going to be enough? No, the answer is no. So, it's going to be Chaos's opportunity to attack. They've been resting on their laurels, and now they get to move their war engines into position. So, higherentity is passed. Now, it's going to be the Vicious Bloodletter, I can only imagine, delivering some sort of area effect 3 type volley. We've got 2 1-value shield cards and 2 2-value shield cards. Are we going to be seeing any of this protected? It's going to take a copy... Well, okay, so Shrine Guard are dead no matter what. They're 1/1s. Looks like, no, it's just going to be real simple there. So Backlash is going to be discarded to preserve Maksim's squadron there at 1 hit point. We still have a sufficient number of resources to use an additional, well, the 2nd copy of Backlash, and we've got enough for the Emperor's Warrant. So, the Lehman Russ battle tank takes 3 points of damage. Clear Cut Refuge means that it has 9 HP remaining. But, if you take a look at all these remaining Chaos units, that's going to be well more than enough. Interestingly enough, Ku'gath decides to retreat. Not sure what exactly Ku'gath is afraid of. Maybe it's just to bait out a copy of the Emperor's Warrant. Ammo Depot triggers. Sakalim's Finest is going to be added to hand. That's really not a great time to end up drawing that card once there are no more, non-first green planets where you're going to be winning battles, because, Barless, we're not going to be seeing our AM player win a battle at that planet. Sorry to get everyone's hopes up. Satya indicates that she is done. Attacks of 8, 12, 16, 20 among 4 units is going to be more than enough to kill these cards here. The Emperor's Warrant is exhausting a target unit. That is Black Legion Helldrake. Backlash, there we go. That is going to be Backlash, so goodbye to those 2 resources. The Emperor's Warrant is going to be canceled. If you cancel the effect X, like the format is do X, then do Y. If you cancel X, Y never occurs. So Emperor's Warrant is going to be gone. Black Legion Helldrake is not exhausted. Sathariel the Invocator is going to be able to handily destroy this copy of Maksim Squadron. It is dead. Black Legion Helldrake and these Soul Grinders here are going to be able to deal a combined total of 16 damage to the battle tank. It's only got a grand total of, well, why is that? Okay, there we go. That's 4 points of damage. It's only got 5 HP left. The Black Legion Helldrake could swing, and I guess I don't know why the Soul Grinder is attacking first, because it's going to be at a total of 12 HP. But anyway, the Black Legion Helldrake, even if you were to discard your signature attachment, that's only 3 shield icons, and that would have been a dead unit. So now the Black Legion Helldrake is going to be able to swing. The Leman Russ battle tank is going to be destroyed. It's not a soldier or a warrior, so we're not going to be able to see like an Elysian assault team or anything along those lines being put into play. There is no such thing as additional copies of troop transport in play, and now there is no conceivable way that I am aware of that Grigory Maksim is going to be able to win this game outside of assassinating Ku'gath Plaguefather, and I do not believe that that is going to be happening. Check it out. Ku'gath is not at the planet. All of these units have to ready. Then we've got a combat round occurring. Sathariel the Invocator is going to have an opportunity to return a power trait chaos faction event to hand, which is Tzeentch's Firestorm. Now we've got combat turn eligibility. There are no eligible enemy units to be declared defender against an attack. That is going to be a card randomly discarded from our AM player's hand. Not quite yet. Actually, during the action window, looks like we're seeing Ominous Wind. So that is going to be a total of 8 cards drawn, and that is going to be 4 cards discarded. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We still need an additional 3 cards, I believe, unless maybe I lost track. Plays. So, oh god, Promise of Glory 1, STC 2, Ominous Wind 3, Splintered Path 4, Gut and Pillage 5, Black Legion 6, Fallback 7, Prince's Might 8, and now we're discarding 2 unnecessary copies of STC Fragment, redundant copy of Sathariel the Invocator. We've got Maksim with 26 cards remaining in deck. We've got 11 cards remaining in Ku'gath's deck. If Ku'gath wins a lot of command, that's going to be 5 more cards drawn. Ku'gath is not going to deck himself, herself, and Gut and Pillage is going to be played as a reaction to winning a battle at this planet. So basically it was action window, combat turn, battle is won. And then we're going to be seeing this battle ability, so that's a shit ton of resources coming in for Satya. Now we're going to be seeing Sakalim's Finest randomly discarded. That does not affect anything whatsoever. Bit of a shame it was not the Emperor's Warrant or Backlash, because the Emperor's Warrant, rest assured, it can do a significant amount of damage if Satya does have another copy of Backlash, so she's looking to be in just fine form. So, we move into what is likely to be our last HQ phase. That's going to be 4 resources, 2 cards for each of our players. No units for poor Maksim yet. He's got 4 resources. He's going to be able to play Clearing the Path and then trigger his ammo depots in succession here. But note that Grigory's going to have to show up at planet number 1, and he's going to have to sacrifice probably a Sakalim Shrine Guard and a Leman Russ battle tank, courtesy of these Soul Grinders. So let's see what happens. Satya plays a copy of Promise of Glory. She's got another copy of Gut and Pillage, which is going to be entirely unnecessary. We've got another copy of Ominous Wind, which, if she were to play that, she would deck herself, so I would advise against playing that. Splintered Path Acolyte is going to be played to planet number 2. That's going to be a nice little deploy stall to potentially help fund an additional copy of Black Legion Helldrake. Oh my god, that's going to be another copy of Soul Grinder at planet number 1. So that is going to be 3 units necessarily sacrificed. So here's how the game is going to end. Unless Grigory gets lucky and draws a unit, it could be Grigory showing up at planet number 1, Ku'gath showing up at planet number 1, and combo. That's going to be 1, 2, 3 units sacrificed. So man, that is rough. But let's see how everything ends up being finished here. Both players have passed. We do not see Clearing the Path. So I guess let's see, both players end up going to planet number 1. So very interesting. I guess Grigory is going to take his medicine here. Both players are showing up at planet number 1. That's going to be a command struggle won by Ku'gath. That is going to be 3 units sacrificed to those soul grinders. And that is rough. There's no targeting, it's just sacrificing units. But Higher Entity calls out the GG, and that is going to be that. That is the good game. Congratulations to Ku'gath Plaguefather, satiatesanguine, if I'm pronouncing that right. But our Sanguinous Chaos faction warlord ends up winning this one. Grigory Maksim put up a hell of a fight. But in the end, it was insufficient, and yeah, Satya points out that opening hand, if memory serves, was a little bit crusty for poor Grigory, and things didn't end up going too terribly well. That double keep firing wrecked poor Ku'gath, but it was insufficient for a Higher Entity to win this one. So, Higher Entity is removed from the Black Crusade. Unfortunately, it is GG no re, so well played. Congratulations to Higher Entity for making it this far to the top 32, the single elimination portion of this tournament, but only one can move on, and that is satiatesanguine. So, hopefully, dear viewers, you enjoyed this match. Look forward to our first top 16 featured match next week. Thank you to everyone for continuing their involvement with the Black Crusade. Look forward to that top 16 game. Look forward to the next season when we likely crack open our first unofficial Black Crusade expansion worth of additional cards, because even though Conquest's development may have been cancelled, even though the license was lost, this game shall live on forevermore in our hearts and hopefully also on Octagon. So, thank you for watching, and as always, if you enjoyed this content, hit the like button, hit the share button, share this with your friends. There's never been a better time to get into Conquest. I'm sure all of this stuff is going to be going on sale soon, so get into the game. Continue to support Fantasy Flight Games. If you choose to do so, get in touch with me on Twitter, on Facebook, support me on Patreon if you want to keep seeing Conquest LCG videos. So, as always, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to check back in again soon for more Conquest LCG content to come.